So we'd like to welcome you to the Things Conference. My name is Robert Ferriday from AllIoT Technologies, and with me is David Green from Blenheim Palace. Who's a unique client of ours, and we'd like to run through LoRaWAN and its impact on cultural heritage.
So this is my workplace. This is Blenheim Palace, and this is home to the 12th Duke and Duchess of Marlborough. It's an incredible, unique estate covering about 12,500 acres, but it doesn't stand alone. There's actually 1/3 of the UK is made up of landed or private estates, just like Blenheim. And we have many things in common. We have land that needs to be managed. We have trees, we have forests that need to be looked after and cared for. And we have rivers, lakes, and complex ecosystems, and this abundance of biodiversity. And typically what sits at the heart of all of that is quite a significant property that requires constant maintenance, restoration, and conservation. And this means we need to find sort of clever ways to pay for it. So this great estate was opened to the public in 1950, and this is one of the ways that we can actually fund some of the restoration and maintenance projects. So our challenge is we need to create this income to protect this magnificent place and to go further to protect our precious environment. And this year in particular is very important to us, where we've made a climate pledge to become carbon neutral on scopes 1 to 3 across all of our operations by 2027, and then go beyond that to remove 230,000 tonnes from the atmosphere by 2050.
At AllIoT Technologies, we represent what we feel is the best of breed product set across LoRaWAN. We work with over 40 different partners, and we ourselves are LoRa Alliance members. We work with our partners to offer their products to our growing client base, and these relationships allowed us to provide the largest range of sensors, gateways, LNS services, and software solutions to meet the use cases that they all have. Project requirements are essential to our clients, and therefore with nearly 1,000 sensors to offer and gateway options and more than 40 different trusted partnerships, AllIoT Technologies consider themselves to be a leader in this area. Our services are built around the client's use case. With any IoT use case, what we're looking at is what data does what client want to collect, and what's the value of that data to them. Once we understand this, we can look at making the perfect solution wherever possible. Any IoT project really has to identify what they want to get as a result, and that with those right insights, we can offer installation on the right hardware and software, the product recommendation and solution designs. We can look at remote support, technical support for software and hardware. We can offer radio surveys, installation planning, support contracts. We can even look at partners where we can offer on-site installation and gateway installations. The idea is that if you need it, we have a service that can satisfy your requirements.
So where did it all begin? We welcome 1 million visitors to Blenheim each year, and they come from all over the world. But the question is, how do we operate a successful heritage attraction? Well, a very, very basic answer is you give people a really good time. You give them a really good experience, and they go on and they tell their friends. Now, to give the best experience, what do you need to do? You need to manage the queues, you need to optimize the spaces, and you need to measure feedback, and that all requires live data. So we have this huge amount of transactional data, but we wanted to do more, which has meant we needed to understand just exactly what happened across the site at any one time. We teamed up with Oxford University, and we actually applied for funding from Innovate UK, and we were successful in that to build what we call the Smart Visitor Management System. And the Smart Visitor Management System consists of 2 key subsystems. Now, the first one is the CIP, the Customer Insight and Prediction, and this is about predicting the number of visitors coming to Blenheim. The second component, and the one that most suited our link with AllIoT and why we contacted AllIoT, was actually to understand the flow of visitors, the visitor experience and flow, to understand where visitors are right now and where they're likely to go to. Now, the key challenge here was we had to collect data from across the wide area of our site. You know, there's 12,000 acres. We wanted to know what was happening in each corner of the estate. And power and connectivity were just impossible. It was just not an option. So, you know, enter LoRaWAN and enter AllIoT to really help us find a solution here. So the outcomes of this is, you know, we're predicting visitor footfall 30 days in advance now. We've improved our operational planning. We can optimize our food preparation, which leads to less waste. And we've used the LoRaWAN bidirectional sensors and fed that into our own machine learning models to provide an even better estimate of where people are right now and where they're going next. Now, in this picture here, you'll see that this is the Christmas light show at Blenheim, which attracts hundreds of thousands of people every single year. And to successfully manage thousands of visitors that come through the light trail during a pandemic, we actually installed the bidirectional sensors, which successfully managed that flow of visitors, those flow of visitors through the site during a very, very busy time.
So we've got the opportunity now to work with what is a unique client. And once we understand not just the specific use case they've got for their people counting, we can then look at the larger project of what other things that they'd like to look at in the future. That gives us the ability to understand at a high level what the possibilities would be of working with Blenheim Palace team going forward. So LoRaWAN was the obvious choice. It means that we can use other sensors in the future, with all of these being interoperable onto one network, and then be able to pull data out for use cases that they have now and adding them in the future as they become more important. This was an ideal solution for what would be a very unique project.
Now, as Rob said, you know, we were able from an initial project just to then expand the capability. You know, this new network opened up so many opportunities for us, and in particular, looking at the conservation of the palace itself, where we can really look at light, humidity, temperature in a live way. Previously, this was all done through manual logging, through data loggers that had to be plugged into a PC. So to be able to overcome that with using LoRaWAN technology was incredibly powerful for us. Now, another thing that we have here is our water quality project. Now, our water quality has deteriorated absolutely massively over the last 10 years, and monitoring of our rivers and our lakes is currently inadequate for our understanding of the nature and the problems in great detail. And the three key reasons why our water quality failed to meet good ecological status are things like agricultural runoff from agricultural practices, point source discharge from sewage treatment works, and silt buildup. Now, silt buildup, normally we have 1 to 2 centimeters a year, but actually during storms, up to 20 centimeters of silt could build up in our lakes and our river systems. Now, this picture here shows a very expensive project that's underway right now. This is a £6 million project to remove 300,000 cubic meters of silt from our Queen Pool Lake here at Blenheim. Now, further upstream, we're looking at restoring a floodplain. Now, previously, we would have removed the silt and put it along the banks. Actually, what we're doing is we're designing this floodplain in a different way now. And actually, we're using LoRaWAN technology to measure a sediment within the system. So we're actually looking at using turbidity sensors to measure sediment upstream and downstream to actually show the impact of that floodplain intervention. Now, we've used a mixed approach here. So we're actually using live water quality monitoring using LoRaWAN, but we're also using manual water quality, and combining these two data sets are incredibly powerful. So what are the outcomes of this? Well, we've improved our alerting to floodings by installing our flood level sensors in remote areas, and we're measuring the impact of that floodplain with regards to extracting nutrients and sediment before it enters our Great Lake. Now, another thing, again, expanding this network further into the estate. Here we're at Hyde Park. Now, Hyde Park is recognised as one of the most biodiverse locations in the UK. And again, it's a SSSI standard. It's home to thousands of rare species, including so many, they don't have an English name, they only have their Latin name. And this ancient woodland of oak trees and other species, you know, is home to trees that go back to the Middle Ages. They date back to the Middle Ages. Now, our estate has a rich mix of flora and fauna, And it's a unique haven for pollinators, including a very rare type of honeybee, once thought to be extinct in the UK. Now, in recent studies, over 50 colonies of these rare bee types were found across the estate. And Felipe Salvani is our bee manager here in the bottom right. He really wanted to understand how the bees maintain temperature within those wild bee nests, 60 feet up in the tree. Now, this has never been possible before without doing sort of using data loggers. Now, with LoRaWAN technology, we were able to put an undisturbed, and not disturb the bees, put in a temperature sensor within those wild bees nests 60 feet up and transmit data straight back to our reporting platform. Now, we could also look at things like using Doppler radar and to measure activity inside and outside of the nest as well. So again, the opportunities that are there for us. We've also, within our great estate, have a butterfly house as part of our visitor attraction. And our butterflies, we have a number of butterfly pupae delivered every 2 weeks. And our gardens team actually maintain and manage the butterfly pupae. Now, previously it was very difficult to manage the hatch rates and the hatch success rates of our butterfly pupae. So working with Rob and AllIoT, what we did is we installed temperature and humidity sensors within those hatcheries, directly within those hatcheries, to give live alerts straight back to the gardens team, who can then maintain and manage the temperature and humidity within those hatcheries, where we're now seeing much, much greater success rates.
So obviously, we have the ability to provide you with hardware to meet all of the use cases that team will be looking at. We can also look at future projects, but you need to be able to visualize this. And in this particular instance, we've looked at using our Novacine partnership to provide the Novacine platform, which can help David and his team manage the sensors he has, look at any alerts, collect data in different ways, whether it be based on different times, when events happen. We can also look at, how do we react to these alerts? The Novacine platform can give the information in table form, in graph form. There's a heat map option, and then we can set up particular bespoke alerts to trigger whenever an event happens that needs intervention from one of the team on the ground. David will give you probably better insight, as this is being used now on a daily basis. But in this particular instance, we felt it was the best solution.
No, exactly. Thanks, Rob. And we have this incredible platform now. And what good is the data without being able to visualize the data in such a fantastic way as this? We've got this growing array of sensors, as Rob mentioned, where we're now looking at things like waste management with bin level sensors. We've got air quality, looking at measuring idling traffic of our visitors on our main roads. And we're really focused on getting the data into the hands of people that really need it and when they need it. So what we've done is not only utilize the power of the Novacine platform, but actually we've used the Novacine API to integrate with our Microsoft platform too. The data then is pushed into the hands directly into our head of collections, who uses the data to manage the building, in terms of conservation, so our temperature, humidity, and dust buildup within the actual palace itself. We've got the maintenance team much more aware of water quality issues, so we can identify anything much further in advance than we could previously. And we've got the gardens team looking at butterfly hatch rates and looking at monitoring those environments as well in remote areas of the site. And getting this data into the hands at the right time is really, really important. And the integration with Microsoft Power Platform means that we've actually delivered all of those alerts straight into our Teams channel, straight to email, all within a managed network. We want to get the data in the hands of our communities as well, though. So by raising awareness, we can promote positive behavior changes. In 2019, we created a live air quality project looking at a particular matter, and also contributing to the Luftdaten project back in Germany. Now, we really struggle with Wi-Fi connectivity, and we've just developed a new LoRaWAN version with a rack wireless module. Now, on top of all of that, what we really want to look at is what the next generation can do with this data, what the next generation can do about understanding their environment and sort of changing things for positive, for good. So what we've done is we've installed a TTN gateway, a Things Network gateway, right on top of the palace roof, central to the palace, which has huge coverage across our areas. And this is allowing our school children to build their own kits using Raspberry Pi and Arduino and plugging in their own sensors or developing their own sensors to then send back to the palace or other gateways to then use that data in their own research or to build apps and many other things. So we've created a GitHub account to allow schools and teachers and pupils to get their hands on some code samples and to make a start with LoRaWAN and the Things Network. This will also open up a different educational offering. So the playground that is Blenheim, people can come to Blenheim with their own devices and they can measure water quality, air quality, and things that we haven't dreamt up yet.
So this is really a great example of how we can supply the right products to what is a smart estate. The LoRaWAN use cases could be endless, but you future-proofed the project, we future-proofed the solution, and with our partners, as new sensors become available, we can offer them to David and his team to see if they can improve what's already a very exciting project.
Now, what's the future? We spend £4 million a year on restoration projects. We get stone failure. We look at the palace and we think it's in very, very good condition. Well, actually, it requires constant care and attention. So actually, things like stone failure is something that we really want to understand. So we're working with Oxford University as well as Rob at AllIoT to look at 3 key projects. One, we're developing a digital twin, and what we want to do is bring in our sensor data within that model to really understand the impact of weather on our stone, to understand the stone in greater detail. We're mapping the lichen across the building. Now lichens are a really good indicator of climate change, and there are hundreds of species of lichen that we want to map across the building. And also we want to look at the iron cramps, the sort of skeletal structure of the palace as well. And those iron cramps, when they fail, they can actually pop stone, so stone will fall off the building. So it's really important that we can understand how the building is living and breathing. So on top of that, we want to look at things like energy performance of the building. We are a Grade 1 listed site. We want to understand how we can be more efficient as climate change takes effect and the cost of living takes effect. And, you know, to answer the question, what makes our estate smart? Well, it is all about the scalable nature of LoRaWAN. It's all about the openness of using the Things Network to allow us to share the data with communities and to do things that we've not even thought about yet.
So there we have a unique project in the way that we work in partnership with one of our clients. For more information, obviously, get in touch with us and we'd like to share more with you.